I'm just going to crack into it because I'm interested in this book and nobody's here yet. So, hello to the VODs. Um, Here we go. Move that. Wait a second. Okay, no, I'm going to go back. Because this is something that I've been wanting to do, or that I've been trying to remind myself to do for a while, is actually introduce myself. Hi, I'm Meg. I I don't remember to do that very frequently. For whatever reason, I just assume everybody already knows me. So if you've never stopped in here before, hello. I'm Meg. You can call me Meg. You can call me Creative. You can call me Creative Garden. You can call me Garden. Some people, there's one person in Australia who just says CG. So whatever you want, doesn't matter. Um, as long as I'm aware of it as a name, I will answer to it. Um, so that's me. I am a aspiring writer. I started writing when I was, like years and years ago, when I was still kind of more or less a teenager into the college years. And then I walked away from it. I walked away from a like fully fleshed out world that I had, with, halfway through a story just left my characters hanging. So one of them's been stuck in a dungeon for the past however many years. And so I've been wanting to get back into it. I've been wanting to kind of finish that project, but also continue and have more stories in that same world. Um, so that's kind of my goal with streaming is I want to one read more, so that I can look at other people's stories, learn from different writing techniques, learn from character arcs and things like that. But then also I want to kind of prompt myself to write, and I think having the kind of the accountability of streaming will be very helpful for me. So that's me in a nutshell. We did the first book club stream that we did was the first two. There are two introductions in this book. So we read through the first two, the two introductions, and then in the second stream that we did, we read through chapters 1 through 3. Chapter 1 is pretty long, and then 2 and 3 went pretty quick. I don't know, actually, chapter 4. Oh, chapter 4 is pretty short. Chapter 5, I think, is pretty short. So we might actually, like, kind of speed through the chapters. I don't know how far into the book we're going to get, but we're just going to read until my throat starts to hurt and my voice starts to feel tired, and yeah. We'll just take our time, and if there's anything that you see or you hear in the story that you would like to talk about, just put it into the chat. Chat is over there. I can't do directions very well. Chat is to that side of me. And I have it also in front of me, so when you post it, I will see it. If I'll see movement, and I'll look up. So I will be happy to talk about anything, talk about writing style, talk about techniques, things like that. Just or anything that you kind of notice. If you see something that's different from the book compared to the movie, I haven't read the book yet, but I have seen the movie, so I'm familiar with the story. And if you notice any differences and you want to talk about that, pop it in the chat, and I will come to it when I see it. All right, I'm going to get started now that you all know who I am, and I'm going to try and remember to introduce myself more frequently. All right. Chapter 4, The Preparations. I didn't even know this chapter existed until I began the Good Parts version. All my father used to say at this point was, "What with one thing and another, 3 years passed." And then he'd explain how the day came when Buttercup was officially introduced to the world as the coming queen, and how the great square of Florence City was filled as never before, awaiting her introduction, and by then he was into the terrific business dealing with the kidnapping. Would you believe that in the original Morgenstern, this is the longest single chapter in the book? 15 pages about how Humperdinck can't marry a common subject, so they fight and argue with the nobles and finally make Buttercup Princess of Hammersmith, which was this little lump of land attached to the rear of King Lotharon's holdings. Then the Miracle Man began improving King Lotharon, and 18 pages are used up in describing the cures. Morgenstern hated doctors and was always bitter when they outlawed Miracle Men from working in Florin proper. And 72, count 'em, 72 pages on the training of a princess. He follows Buttercup day to day, month to month, as she learns all the ways of curtsying and tea pouring and how to address visiting nabobs and like that. All this in a satiric vein, naturally, since Morgenstern hated royalty more even than doctors. But from a narrative point of view, in 105 pages, nothing happens. Except this. What with one thing and another, 3 years passed. That's the end of chapter 4. Okay. So chapter 4 is basically just a sentence, what with one thing and another, 3 years passed. I do kind of like the ability to just take everything, sum it up, and say, this part's boring, let's move on. I feel like in my writing, a lot of times, I will feel the need to kind of show the progression of time, but that can tend to be kind of boring. And so it is nice to just have a little chapter that's like, here, there's stuff happening, but we're not going to talk about it because it's not important to the story. It kind of gives the feeling of stuff moving forward without actually having to spend a lot of time on it. I guess on the other hand, that could be seen as sort of a cop-out of just like, I'm not going to put in the effort to write something interesting. But I guess, I don't know, maybe it's not necessary all the time. And it's probably very situation dependent. Like, what is your story actually about? I think a good chunk of the story that I wrote when I was younger was about a journey that the characters take and visiting different parts of the world. And if you skip any of that, it's no longer really about the journey. It's like, oh, just we're only going to focus on the exciting things that happen. So maybe that wouldn't work for me, at least in that particular story, but I do like having that as a technique. Something that I might be tempted not to use because I maybe in my writing I'm a little bit more verbose. But it's a good thing to think about. Hi there. Thanks for joining our book club. If you'd like to join the conversation, I would love it if you would leave us a comment. And if you'd like to see more, check out the playlist.